Hello and welcome to Saturday Night Crafting. I'm so happy. It's been a whole week since I've been here with you guys. We have been trying to move house and we've been prepping our house to sell. So it's been all hands on deck and very busy. But I am so happy that I got some time in my office today. Yay! So tonight I thought I'd start with some shopping. These are some items I got from Lena Crafts, and these I'm going to use most of them today in the video, so I wanted to share them with you. That is some of my favorite thin tape that I just shared with you. Super sticky, super thin, really awesome. This is a layering set of dies. It comes with 5 dies. 3 outside dies and then cool decorative die, and then we got happy birthday balloons, which is so cool, and then we've got these big background stamps. So these are what I'm going to use today. There's another one that I'll share with you in a minute, and they are well cool. They're nice and big. They're 5.5 inches wide. The one here with the kind of fireworks looking like thing is just individual stamps in a same size packaging. I've got these gorgeous sort of floral lacy kind of elements. And these beautiful flowers. Oh my word, I feel like Alina is stepping up her game. I couldn't resist. I had to have some of these items. They're so nice. I will link all of these down below for you. You can go and check them out if you want. These like moon dies are so pretty with the flowers and little fairies. And then I wanted to get a slimline die because this is little bows and it has lots of embossing details in it and it's so cute. So yes, this is my little gift to me. And then she's also got some word dies with the matching dies, the word stamps with the matching dies. So I had to have a play with those and I use those today as well. So if you want to see any of those products, I'll link them down below for you. She ships internationally, worldwide, so you can have a look. And I also treated myself to a new heat gun. So this is really exciting. I got the Sizzix heat gun. It comes with an adapter for the EU, which is really awesome. I'll link that down below. I got it from Craft Stash. They had a little sale on, so I made the most of it. And I think I got like 10% or 20% off and treated myself to a new heat gun. I've really wanted a new one for a while. I've had a Stampin' Up! One for years. And I don't really like to use Stampin' Up! Products that much. I find they're very exclusive and they're a bit hard to get a hold of. I want to use products that you guys can get a hold of nice and easy. So I'm trying to change over some of my products. So that's what I went with. I've got Alina's embossing powders. I just think it's really nice if I'm going to use one product as the main kind of focal point to use the rest of the products that they might have as well. So I really love to support Alina. She's a lovely lady. I've had her come round for dinner. You can see the video on my YouTube channel about that. But she is fantastic and she's a beautiful small business, and so I really love supporting her and using her products in my videos. They're really great quality. So I've got this mat here. This is a Jennifer Maguire idea. It is not my idea, but I'll link the mats down below for the UK. It's a nice sticky low tack mat, and that's what I'm going to use to stick my stamps down. It makes it nice and easy. So I've gone ahead and cut my cardstock base to 5.5 by 5.5, which is the exact same size as the stamp. That way I can place my stamp down and get it lined up nice and beautifully, and then I don't have to trim too much off at the end. I was hoping not to trim any, but I do trim it down a bit, and I'll give you all those measurements towards the end of the video. So I stuck my little piece of card right in that top corner along the lines, just to make sure it's nice and lined up, and then I'm going to stamp it down with some Versamark embossing ink. This is a sticky ink, and I was just sharing with you, I forget the embossing powder bag pretty much every single time. So what I thought would be fun is to use mix of colors. So I'm sprinkling on some of the dark green embossing powder to kind of give these leaves a bit more character and a bit more dimension almost. So I'm using 2 different colors. I'm going to go ahead and tip out the dark green, then I'm going to pour the light green on. When I do my embossing powder, I give it a good tap. I'm leaving it on the sticky mat just to share with you. You can just leave it on the sticky mat to hold it in case your card goes like this one where your stamp goes all the way to the edges. So this is a nice way to put the embossing powder on, and you notice I'm tipping it towards just those 2 edges because the rest of it is obviously a sticky mat and the embossing powder will stick right to it. So I'm just using those edges. You can see I can wipe it off with my fingers just like that, and then I can pull it off the mat. So if you want a nice easy way to do a huge background image and get your embossing powder all over, then using a sticky mat like that to hold it while you're sprinkling the powder is a really great way. I'm going to use my new heat gun and I'm going to go ahead and melt my embossing powder, and it kind of merges together, which is so cool. And you get this really beautiful kind of, not ombre, but multicolored look. So you can see here, it just gives it a bit more oomph and looks a bit more cool. I don't know, I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my cardstock back in. I don't need to line up the stamp again because I use that top and side edge to put my piece of cardstock in. Obviously, you could just put your cardstock right into the top corner of your, I didn't use the powder bag, of your stamp platform, and you get the same effect. But I just like my sticky mat and the fact that it holds it nice in place so that when I stamp, it doesn't kind of pop up and stick to that embossing ink, which sometimes happens. I'm using 3 colors this time. I wanted the gold to kind of pop off, so I'm using a gold embossing powder, the dark green and the light green. And this gives you a good look at how you can blend 3 different colors together and what it looks like in the end. Now, when I did my next one, I'll show you in a minute the result of the final one. But when I did the next version, I did the gold first and applied the gold on the areas I really wanted it to go on and tried to put it a bit more heavier in certain places. And then I added the colors, and I like that result a bit more than just going for gold and using whatever colors I've got. I should have said going for gold, but just using whatever colors I want randomly. So that's the first one. And you'll see the second version in just a second. So here's the original without the gold, and then there's the one with the gold, and then you can go ahead and see when I've used the gold first. So this is where I put the gold on first, and I like the control I got a bit more with it because it's the darkest color, but I do love both of them. It is a really fun way to use up your embossing powders. I'm so focused on these folders. I've got my really awesome silicone mat from Altenew and some chipped sapphire ink. I really love these mats because they kind of hold my cardstock while I'm inking them up. It doesn't slippy slidey around on my nice little surface. So they're really handy for when I do some ink blending or when I want to apply ink like this with a brush. And all I'm doing here is I am just adding a heavy layer of chipped sapphire to kind of give it a nighttime feel, a bit of a darker feel, and just sharing with you another way that you can go ahead and use the embossing powders and then kind of add some more color afterwards if you want to change the look of your background. So here's a different kind of looking background compared to the original, which is kind of a light, more bright one. Now this is the sort of checked, I think I'm using the wrong word, patterned stamp, and I've gone ahead and used the dark blue embossing powder from Alina Crafts, and it's kind of got a bit of a metallic hint to it. And I thought I would lay this one down, and this is one of those fun stamps where you can rotate it and you can add double color. But this time I thought I would rotate it and add holographic embossing powder. So I picked up this holographic embossing powder from Craft Stash. It's made by Wow, so wherever you can buy Wow embossing powder, I'm sure you can find it and get it. It's really pretty, so it's completely clear. This time I do remember the embossing bag. You really want to be careful if you're going to re-stamp on top and then do another second layer of embossing. So I'm lining up the stamp and I'm going to line it up in the opposite way. So I've rotated the stamp and I'm going to go ahead and line it up, and you can see there when I've rotated it that the pattern's kind of going on the opposite squares, if that makes sense. So now when I add the embossing powder and stamp it down, I'm going to be filling in those squares and overlapping some of them. So not all of them will have the holographic embossing powder, just like the original stamp with the blue embossing powder on it. So it's a really fun way to get another kind of look to your background and another use out of your big background stamps. Now obviously with these with these stamps, you can go ahead and die cut out shapes, and you can make them whatever shape you want them to be because they're nice and big, and that's quite a nice thing with a big stamp, is you can manipulate it and change the overall appearance if you want to. So I'm heat setting this embossing powder, and you can then see the amazing holographic shine. It is so difficult to catch on the on my camera. I really wish it showed it because it's really glittery and sparkly and so pretty. And you can see it's just in those white squares and it's so hard to catch. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and make some of my little sentiment strips to go on the fronts of my cards. So I'm just going to lie them down in my stamp platform. When I do my VersaFine or Versamark ink and when I do embossing, I like to stamp it twice with my embossing ink. Sometimes you don't get a really good first impression. Sometimes it absorbs into your cardstock a bit. I like to make sure I have a nice, juicy surface to work with when I'm using embossing powder. So I went ahead and stamped it twice, which is why I use a stamp platform. You obviously don't need to use a stamp platform. I just like the result a bit more. Then I can heat set it with my heat gun, and we get these beautiful golden sentiments. Now I do this twice. I do it with the gold embossing powder, and I also do it again with the blue embossing powder. The dies fit perfectly over top of these sentiments, which works really well. Add some low tack tape, run it through your die cutting machine, and then you've got a little bundle of sentiments. So I've got my blues and I've got my golds to kind of coordinate with my 4 card bases. I also went and cut out some foliage. I love these leaves. I've used them so many times. They just seem to work on almost everything. So I apologize that you keep seeing these dies come back and back and back. Then I die cut this one out. Now I didn't run it through twice, and my holographic card is really thick, so it didn't cut through the whole entire thing, but that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to leave all the holographic bits in, so I used extra thick holographic cardstock. I'll link the shop I buy mine from. They've also given me a 20% off code to give to you, which is really cool. So if you watch my channel and you want to order from this UK supplier, you can have 20% off. So I'll put that code down in the description box as well. I've never had a company really offer me that before, so I thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, I've also picked up some more vellum, and I found an eBay seller that sells this really awesome vellum, and you can get in several different thicknesses. This is the 150. I'll link their shop down below. They're a new discovery for me, and I ordered a little bit overboard again, and I think I got like a total of 200 sheets of vellum in 3 different thicknesses. But you know, go big or go home. That's how I end up always shopping. I apologize. So I've got my vellum. I'm going to go ahead and stick that on the back. I cut it to just a bit smaller than my die cut so that it would fit nicely on the back. And I'm using double-sided tape to make sure those bits don't fall out, the ones that have cut all the way through. And also to secure that vellum. The vellum acts as kind of a buffer for the background, so it's not so bold and in your face right in the middle point. And it draws your eye into the center of the card. I thought I would add some foliage around the outside of it to kind of give it a little bit more character and kind of tie in the colors that are underneath my background stamp as well. So these any kind of dies that are foliage like this are really fun to work with because they just are really handy for bringing out a bit of a background and adding a bit of character to your card. They're really good fun. So when I've done that and I've got them all glued down, I'm going to go ahead and use my big Tim Holtz scissors and just trim off the excess. And then that way it kind of looks like those foliage bits belong to that top panel, if that makes sense. I'm using my double-sided tape again to adhere it onto my background. I'm using the double-sided tape and not the liquid glue just because sometimes it's a bit too slippy slidey. And I wanted it to just stay secure, so I decided to use double-sided strong tape instead. To add my sentiment, I'm going to use Aleena's double-sided foam tape. This is my foam tape of preference of choice. I use this on everything. This is the best foam tape for shaker cards. It's really nice and thin. I think it's 5 mils wide and it fits sentiment strips beautifully. So I have a big stock of this tape in my stash, and I always make sure I've got some. So that's that card finished off. And I'm going to, oh sorry, it's not finished off. The top panel is finished off. I've gone ahead and cut myself a layer, a matting layer, and then a card base. And I'm just going to adhere them all together, and then you'll see the measurements in a minute. So if you've got these stamps in your stash already, then you can steal my measurements and recreate these cards and not have to think too much about what to do with them. So there's the finished card, and I love how it turned out. It's a nice, clean, simple card, I think. It's quite, I just love the holographic card as well. So the stamps measure 5.5 by 5.5. So I trimmed down my overall image to 5.25 by 5.25, created my layer at 5 3/8, and then my card base is 5.5 by 11. So 5.5 wide and 11 inches long, so that when you fold it over, you get a 5.5 by 5.5 inch card. And here are the finished other cards. So I used those balloon dies. I popped them all up on foam tape and added some twine underneath, and it just looks really cute. It can be quite a masculine looking card as well when you've got all those leaves and foliage. It's not overly feminine. Here's the one with the dark blue, and I added a dark blue sentiment into the middle. And this one I added a couple flowers on the edge, which are also from Aleena's shop. They're one of my favorite flowers. They kind of emboss a bit of detail into them. And I just added some gems from my stash in the center that kind of matched that green. And that kind of finishes off my video for today. So I hope you had fun with me crafting on this Saturday. I hope to see you all again next week. I am hoping for a midweek video, but I've also got 2 days of my normal work. I've only got 4 shifts left to undone. But I've got 2 days next week, and we are going to be having some house views on our property, so it might be a bit too hectic again, but I will see you on Saturday, and I can't wait. So have a really excellent weekend. See you all soon. Bye.